ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Chess Time. Today we have a special guest, Marcus. How you doing, Marcus?
Yeah.
And of course, with me, above me, as always, in life and on the screen is Tim Drennock-Connor. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing quite well today, Jack. Thank you.
Okay. Now, as you all know by now, Tim and I are awful at chess, and Marcus is markedly less awful at chess. Is that about right, Marcus?
That's a good way of saying it. I think less good in the past, maybe even a better way of saying it.
And you got a bit of sort of a lesson kind of a plan thing for us to be doing some learning today.
Yeah, especially for you, Jack, because I know you like playing the Sicilian.
I do. It's my favorite.
Well, this is kind of the Sicilian against queen pawn openings.
Okay, now this immediately, right? We're looking at the first move on the screen right now. And just, this is a move I would never make, right? I'm just looking at this, I'm like, I put my pawn there, and now I'm just thinking, oh, well, great. Now I'm gonna be, it's a free pawn, right? I guess if you take the pawn, then I send the queen out to A5 check and then take the pawn. Is that about right?
You could do, but then you got your queen stuck in the middle of the board. It's actually a much simpler response, which is just to go, if he does take it, to go E6. But I tell you what, let's just go a few moves in, and we'll come back and analyze the side variations. The reason being is that I'm not so much interested in the actual opening, so much as in the way you learn openings.
Okay, cool.
So what we'll do is we'll skip ahead to what would normally be a key position. So if white, you play D5.
Okay, D5.
Push I'm white. So I'm white. Yeah. So I'm gonna bring my pawn to D5, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Black normally plays D6.
D6. Okay.
Yep. You just don't want that pawn going any further. White would normally play C4.
Pawn C4, right? We're
pawn
just assuming
C4,
that.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Black plays knight F6.
Knight F6. Okay.
White plays knight C3.
Knight to C3.
Yeah. Black plays G6.
G6. Okay.
There's some crazy letters and numbers, man.
It's just you'll notice it will take on a very Sicilian-looking side from Black's pretty quickly.
Yeah.
White plays E4.
E4.
Black plays bishop G7.
Yep.
White plays knight F3.
Knight F3.
Black castles.
I've been known to misclick. That's why I'm taking a second.
Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, feel free. And White just gets a piece out with bishop E2.
Bishop E2.
We're nearly there. Now, the next move I'm not going to explain yet.
Okay, cool. All right.
Black is going to play E6.
E6.
Yeah, he's going to play the other center pawn up one.
Okay.
Yeah.
White will castle. Black will take the pawn in the center, ED.
Okay.
And White will play CD. Or C takes D5.
So my C pawn takes D5, right?
C pawn takes D5.
Yes, that is what CD means. It also means compact disc.
So
yeah, I was thinking CX-D5 in my head, and I was like, but doesn't it need to take?
Yeah, CD is a bit of a terse version of that.
It's much easier to say.
Okay, so the opening that you saw with the D4 and C5 on the first move, that was called the Benoni opening.
Okay.
It actually means son of sorrow in Hebrew. I know. The story goes that the guy who analysed it was so depressed, he was a manic depressive, that he named the opening Son of Sorrow. That story is almost certainly not true. But it's kind of cool. So
I'm a fan.
I don't know if it's cool that he was really sad, or if it's just cool, like, that's got a deep name. You got a lot that's just the French. You have the Son of Sorrow.
If I'm feeling really sad, I'm not sure chess is going to cheer me up quite as much as going out and meeting people. But anyway, if the story is true, he named it Son of Sorrow. It's actually a very, very typical position. This setup we've got into now can arrive through a huge number of move orders. It's basically a key position. Key positions are sometimes called tabiyas. When we had the original Indian game, it was a bit like it was much slower, and it would take a few more moves to get into contact. And people would set up these setups, and the Egyptian word for it was the Indian word for it. Sorry, was tabiya, and the name got carried over into modern chess to mean slightly different. So it's not one person setup; it's both person setup. Mm-hmm. But basically, it means a key position, something that's really thematic. That is kind of your starting point for branching outwards in your thought processes.
Into the mid game, maybe? Like this might be the end of that early game builds?
Absolutely. This is a kind of convergence point where a load of moves will come together. So it's a tabiya as a sort of a key position, but one that really illustrates the main ideas. And each opening will usually have one or two of these at most. And what we're going to use is we're going to set up the tabiya, get a feel for this, and then we're going to use that knowledge in a similar position. So what I'd like you to do is to tell me, it's Black's move at the moment, but I'm interested in both sides. What do you see in this position, and what do you think each side should be doing? What do you think the advantages are? What do you think the problems are?
Starting off, there's a pawn on d5 that's preventing my knight from developing on c6, which is kind of a bummer.
Yep.
I see potentially a place for my rook on the e file, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I'll go along with that. Keep going. Throw them out there. Don't worry if they're wrong or right.
Yeah. I'm looking at bishop moves, but I don't see any that I like, really.
You do have fianchetto, though, which is nice this early. Yeah. Or not this early, but just in general.
Okay, let me give you a few hints. Let's start with the pawns.
Okay.
Who has the most queenside pawns? Who has the most central pawns? Which is such a leading question.
That's interesting. So, okay.
I have more White has more central.
Okay. And Black has more queenside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I'll step through the pawns first, because the pawns are this is a little bit of a static position. The pawn on d5 and the pawn on d6 are kind of cutting the board in half. A little.
Okay.
Black, if he could play the pawn, the knight's pawn, the b pawn, up to b5, his pawns would, Black's pawns would roll down the queen side. They would just kick White's pieces all the way back.
Wouldn't he just take it with the knight?
Well, right now, yes, but imagine that Black is, as a longer-term plan,
okay,
those black pawns are mobile.
Okay, cool.
And if they're let loose, they will roll White's pieces. White's pieces will be scattered, Black's pieces will rush in behind, eventually some lines will get open, and suddenly Black's got all these pieces far advanced, and poor old White's stuck on the back rank or something.
Cool.
So there's this thread of this pawn roller on the queen side. Now, the converse is that White has the majority in the center. So if he can get his pawn up to e5, he can claim a space advantage. And he's kind of got a little bit of a space advantage now. There's one other thing about the pawns. That pawn on d6, the black one, is actually quite vulnerable. It's actually quite a little bit weak. You can't defend it with another pawn. You're going to have to defend it with pieces if it gets attacked. And White can already, if he wants to, bring a bishop out and start attacking it. So you're already going to be a little bit tied down to it. The big thing you've got in your favor, though, is that lovely dark squared bishop. Not only have you got a fianchetto bishop right in the middle, but it's got a clear path, and it's going to continue to have a clear path because of the way the pawns are shaped, all the way down to White's queen side.
That's nice, so
It's got an open diagonal. It's got an open diagonal for a long time.
Okay.
Now, if White can play e5, then that's different. Then that's a problem. So basically, this setup we've got now, Black is trying to play the move b5. If he gets that in for free, he's going to claim an advantage. White is either going to hammer away at d6, or he's going to try to push e5. So we're going to look at it from Black's point of view. Black really wants to stop White playing the pawn to e5. Mm-hmm. At the same time, he wants to advance his pawn to b5. Okay, and that's kind of the essence of this position. The struggle is mainly around that. There's lots of little minor things of where the hell is black going to put his queen's knight, which you very cleverly pointed out straight away. Black's knight has a big decision as to where it's going to go. You were right in the rook has a lovely square. So spot on, absolutely spot on. The next few moves you're going to have to solve. You're going to have to figure out both those pieces. Although the rook's easy. So in actual fact, the actual next move that black played was in fact rook e8. So we might as well jump straight to that. And it's kind of it's a very sensible move given what I've said, because you're trying to stop white playing e5.
All right, so you want me to do make that move on the board now?
Yeah, play rook e8.
All right.
And then I'll talk about white's plan. So white's usually, so we'll look at both plans, and we'll start with white attacks d6 and tries to tie black up. And then later on, we'll look at the plan with e5. White's plan, he's going to play his knight, his king's knight, from d2 to c4. And then he's going to play his bishop to f4. You have to kind of visualize the king's knight hopping in front of the knight on the queen's side. So the knight maneuvers around to c4. And then he puts his bishop on f4. And at that point, he just wins the d pawn because he's got 2 bits on it and you've got no way of defending it. Well, actually, that's not true. You could retreat your bishop back.
Yeah. Question.
Yeah, go for it.
Why not c knight to b5 and then you can take d6?
Okay, that is absolutely true. If you can take it and if you can force its capture, that is almost certainly going to be a winning move. If you can't, you're going to be sent scurrying back as he kicks your knight back. So as a coup de grace, that could be a winner. But it's certainly a possibility in this position. You're absolutely right. No, it's definitely a possibility. Well, we can see how this unfolds in the actual game. But you're absolutely right. Knight b5 is definitely a possibility. And another possibility is if you can somehow get your queen to g3, you can also hit it with a queen.
Yeah.
They're less likely, but it's possible. Anyway, right now, black is actually threatening to take the e-pawn. So white plays the move which fits in with his plan, which is actually to play the knight back to d2.
Gotcha. Fd2, right? F knight
fd to d2, yeah. So it's eyeing up that lovely c4 square. And now we can go back to thinking about black's plan again. And in particular, you're absolutely right, Jack. What do you do with that knight that's on b8?
So a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of protecting, I don't know. I guess I don't have to protect the pawn on c5. I don't feel like. I feel like if I can somehow clear out the pawn on d5, then I can develop it. But maybe that's like impossible, and I need to do something else. I don't really like the d7 square very much for my knight because it blocks my bishop's development, and that makes me unhappy. I think I guess part of this is we're trying to defend the attack on the d6 pawn, right? So I don't see how my b knight could help in that way.
Hopefully not. If you can cause fast trouble on the queen side, you will never have to defend that pawn.
Best defense is a good offense.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Question
go for it.
I would say with thinking about defending the pawn on c5. Now, if I take that pawn and nothing else can take back, then the pawn on d6 would have to take back. Unless you decided not to, in which case I guess I'd get material. But could that be a valid way to attack the d6 pawn for me right here when he was talking about whether or not he should defend his c5 pawn? Because if I can attack that, nothing else takes, then you're in a position of whether you take for material or position.
Maybe I don't know. Is the answer to that. What white will probably do is head towards the center because his pieces are kind of heading that way. When the bishop comes out to f4 or g5, he's gonna lurch towards the right hand side of the board quite naturally here. So I'm not quite sure. I mean, you'd have to play your pawn up to b4 really to really get at c5.
Yeah. So you may not have that opportunity throughout the game when you're in these positions anyways.
I've not seen it in these positions. Which is not to say it's impossible, because I think you could play rook b1 and b4. The only problem is you're in danger of dropping so many pieces on that long diagonal to that bishop while you carry out these maneuvers.
Yeah.
That you probably can't sensibly organize it.
Gotcha. So that's okay. So that attack wouldn't. With that, then Tom has no reason to defend the c5. Then.
No, so I think c5 is pretty safe. In the same way as your d5 is 100% cemented into that position, there's no way it's going to drop off anytime soon. So the real active plan here is to get your pawn up to b5.
Okay.
So, and the defensive plan is to stop white pushing his pawn to e5, or if he plays the bishop out to f4 later on, is to be able to put something on the e5 square to block the bishop, because that will defend the d6 pawn. So from that, you kind of end up with two possible plans. One is to play the knight to d7, which we're not going to do, or is not played in this game. And the idea, as I say, is the knight will come to e5 and if there's a crisis. But what our hero of the black pieces played is he actually played knight a6.
Okay, so you want to make that move now on the board?
Yeah, let's make that move now, because otherwise we strain our brains trying to think ahead. Mm-hmm. White wants to move his knight, so he can't do that in a moment without losing the e pawn. So he played f3.
Mm-hmm.
He played
pawn f3, right?
Pawn f3, yeah.
Yep. F3.
So now he's free to move that knight. And black played his knight that he just brought out on a6 back to c7. So if you play the knight to c7, Jack.
Back down. It's a very or Jack-like thing to do. If we were in an actual game, you'd say, one of us could say, oh, well, you could eventually get to c7, but I have to take down one tempo.
Yes.
We wouldn't agree with this.
Well, it's very tempting to put the knight on b4 and then you get it kicked back all the way back again, and then very silly. But yeah, so knight c7, it's actually a very simple idea. We are going to force through b5. We are going to get so many pieces supporting b5 that no matter what, it is inevitable that it will roll forward.
So you could get like a
cool idea.
We can play a6, we can play rook b8, we can play bishop d7. We can get a ludicrous number of pieces getting that pawn forward. That pawn is going to move. Now the question is whether we can do it before we either lose our d pawn or get smashed in the center. That's really the essence of our dilemma here. But so far so good. We got a potentially useless knight now doing something towards our plan, which is b5. And this is basically, there's two ways to play the Benoni, and they are basically how do you get your knight out. And knight a6, c7 is one plan, and knight to d7 and then to e5 is the other plan. So they're kind of the two ways of playing this position. The problem with knight d7, e5 is not exactly a problem. It gets very complicated. When you play the knight towards e5, you're kind of playing all over the board. You're playing in the center. You're still trying to get your pawn to b5. It's really complicated, and more than a little bit beyond what most players can manage. And certainly when you're learning the Benoni for the first time. So this plan of knight a6, c7 is a bit caveman. We're going to force that pawn to b5 no matter what.
But that's good. Jack's getting out of his comfort zone right here. We'll do it a little caveman style.
It's a nice, simple plan. And when we're learning a position, we want the simplest plan. We can add the complicated plans later. So we'll go with this one. Okay, so we got knight c7. I've lost my place. Right, so white plays a4. The pawn to a4.
a4.
Now, if he'd played the knight c4 straight away, black would have played b5 straight away and kicked the knight all over the place. So this stops b5. And so now the battle is really starting to shape up. White's aiming for the d pawn. Black is trying to get his b pawn forward before crisis hits. Now, if black plays a6 here, which is the most logical move, white would push that pawn to a5. And suddenly it's a bit of a pain because the b pawn wouldn't be able to move. because of the en passant capture.
Right.
So what black does first is he stops a5. It's a very clever maneuver. He plays b6, which is totally counterintuitive until you realize what's going on. So if you, Jack, play pawn to b6.
Okay.
Now, if white were to play a5 now, black can hop past it. He can just go straight to b5. And he's got his pawn roller.
So you want me to go a5 or
no? Don't go a5.
No, don't.
You're saying terrible move.
A5 is now bad because of b6, right?
Yeah.
A5.
I heard it was bad, but I was like, I don't know. Is this the point when it's Drenok makes a dumb move and Jack goes yes and keeps pushing?
No, not this time. So if white plays a5, black will play b5. So that's kind of the maneuver. By taking 2 hops, we don't run the risk of getting stuck because of the en passant capture. And it's just one of the many little tricks that are knocking around in this position. It's not important, but it's kind of nice. Anyway, white gets on with his plan. You shouldn't waste time in chess. White plays knight c4.
Knight c4. All right.
Right. If white gets a free move now, bishop f4 pretty much wins the d pawn. The only defense would be to drop the lovely bishop on g7 back to f8, which would be horrible. So black must do something about this threat, and he does.
Jack, I'm so good.
Yeah, this is actually now become serious. It doesn't take long for things to get serious if both sides are carrying out their plan. So black actually plays here bishop a6. So Jack, do you want to play bishop a6?
Okay.
So put it on the edge. That's it. It's very simple. You're just going to lock that knight off before it causes any more trouble.
I like how you refer to everything, by the way. It's taking it out of the chess sphere, which is kind of vague to us, and putting it, all right, you're going to try to make a big attack on the right-hand side, and this bishop, he's just going to kill the guy before he can do anything. It's concrete. It's really useful.
It is, it's not... Each move has a point, usually, especially in a Masters game. Oh. White carries on with his plan. He actually plays bishop f4 here. So do you want to play that?
Bishop f. Yeah, I'm finding it. Okay, f4. Yep. There we go. f4. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're threatening it. This absolutely forces black to take that knight now, because otherwise he either gets driven back or loses everything. And black does indeed take the knight with the bishop. So Jack, if you want to play bishop takes c4. Okay. White recaptures with the e2 bishop.
e2, I see.
And now the position has substantially changed. Black carries on with his plan. Sorry, black plays a6 first.
This is still with the intent to push on queenside, right?
Absolutely. He's still got that pawn majority, still wants to get it rolling. Now, white has managed to get 2 bishops, or more bishops and less knights. And black now has more knights and fewer bishops. So white now, as far as he's concerned, he's got his concession. He's forced black to give up a tiny little bit, which is if this position ever gets opened, white will have the advantage because he'll have bishops over knights. And also black's got this knight on c7, which isn't so useful. So white now is going to change plan. He's going to start to open up the position. Black doesn't change plan. He still wants to get his pawn roll again. So as white first of all gets his king out of the way. He actually plays his king to h1.
h1. All right. So just a quick question with that. I feel like often Jack and I talk about h1 or moving our king when he's already in the castle. I feel like it can be a loss of tempo right here, but it's just defending against a future attack, right?
Absolutely. So it's white basically wants to start moving that f-pawn forward. He's going to move the bishop out of the way soon, and he's going to start moving that f-pawn forward. And in fact, what he's actually going to do is systematically dissect black's kingside.
Gotcha.
He's going to play queen d2 to put the queen behind the bishop, and he's going to play the bishop right out to h6 with the idea of exchanging off black's bishop.
Gotcha. All right, so king h1 though now, right?
King h1 for now. This is probably the bad.
You want me to make that move, right?
I want you to play king h1 because that's actually what he played. It is possibly a mistake. I don't know.
But I should make it. All right.
We absolutely make it because otherwise we're not going to follow
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You're making me nervous. Each time I asked, you were like, yes, but it's a mistake. And I was like, oh, gosh.
Okay,
I almost made that move.
I'll give you a spoiler. You're actually going to lose horribly.
Oh, gosh. Oh.
Yes! I love it when it's scripted in my favor.
Partly because Black was kind of brilliant in this particular game. This game is a real gem.
Kind of.
This game's a real gem. I utterly lucked out when I found this game. It's so illustrative and so neat at the end. So White's plan is to play Queen D2 and Bishop H6. Black could just get on with the queenside attack, but in fact he decides to cut across White's plan. He actually plays H6. So, Jack, if you want to play the pawn to H6. Now, White carries on. He plays Queen D2. And Black then plays King H7. So he just defends his H-pawn.
Whoa.
Doesn't that seem
That's not a move that I would
aggressive?
make, but I like
Yeah.
it. I like
It's
it.
aggressive. But I guess you have pawn on F, so you can still take G6.
Yeah, the position is still a little bit rigid. Until White gets his pawns moving, it's not going to open up. So Black's kind of decided, you know what, I've got a little bit of time. I'm going to avoid the exchange of that bishop. And it's incredibly hard to judge whether that's the right decision or whether pushing the queen side further forward is the right decision. I mean, I certainly have no idea. And I suspect it would take several dozen master games for the question to be theoretically even settled. It's very, very close, but this is what he chose, and it's great for us because it shows us a neat trick, which is that you don't have to accept the exchange of that bishop. You can barricade in a bit.
Barricade it. I like it.
So White carries on. He plays the A rook to E1.
A rook to E1.
Yeah. Again, this is again real caveman stuff. You're going to play F4 and E5. You're just going to batter your way through the center. Black really doesn't want to allow that. He plays his knight to H5. And this move is going to take some explanation. So, Jack, if you want to play the knight to the H5, that's it. Now,
so I guess you take the bishop?
Is that White's going to move his bishop in a minute? No doubt about it. But what we're doing is we're just uncovering the bishop, the black bishop on G7, just long enough to hold E5. The problem with this knight move is it can get kicked really quick, really easily. So when White plays G4, which is a move he may very well want to play anyway. So this is a kind of temporary step, really, just to slow White down just long enough to get Black's queenside moving. So it's not an ideal move, but it holds E5 just for a second. The alternative was to play the knight back to D7, but we can't do that at the moment because the D6 pawn would be hanging.
In question, when you say slowing down White, it would be slowing me down by threatening my F4 bishop, my dark bishop?
That goes, it goes a convenient tempo, but basically we're now covering E5 with the dark squared bishop. We've moved out.
Okay.
So we're physically stopping that pawn moving right now.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of effort we're trying to do to slow down. In fact, White indeed keeps the bishop. That's part of his plan. So he drops the bishop back to E3. E3. And hopefully you can guess Black's next move. He's going on with his plan. You want to have a guess?
It would be at this point. 1 second. Let me think.
Got this, Jack.
To make sure.
Got this.
Want to consider.
You guys have a think.
All right.
We're really good at having thinks, Marcus. I don't think you want to.
We've had a lot of things, man.
Put us there.
I might go and have a picnic.
Yeah. Maybe now is the time for rook to B8.
Oh, straight away. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, nailed it! Woo!
That's exactly.
I wouldn't have got that. I was thinking something else. Nice,
Nailed it.
Tom.
Feeling
Nice,
good.
Yeah, you've got to think caveman with this opening. You really have.
This is perfect, Jack.
Cool. B8 then? Make
Rook B8. Rook B8 is definitely the move.
Cool.
So yet again, we're threatening B5. It's now become completely unstoppable. I mean, there's nothing Black can do to stop it. He actually pre-retreats his bishop. He drops his bishop back to E2. So if you play the bishop on c4,
Knight bishop e2. Yeah.
Yep. It has also the advantage that it slightly threatens to take the knight later on when the f-pawn moves. So white's got a plan. Okay, so black's move. Well, do you want to guess what black's move is?
Is it time for b5?
It is indeed.
All right, nailed it. 2 in a row. What a god! Literal god, tasteless.
White takes it.
White takes it with knight or pawn?
Oh, sorry, with the pawn. Sorry.
All right. We almost had. Whew.
Almost dropped it. Right. Do you want to guess black's next move?
Okay.
I can't do it, man.
Is it we just take back with the pawn here?
I think 99% of players would take that with the pawn. You're right in that sense, but don't play it because that's not what black played.
Okay.
Is it knight, cool. Right?
And this is where it goes from just being a good game to being an absolutely brilliant one. 9 times out of 10, AB is a perfectly good move, and it gives black the advantage, no doubt. But black actually worked out that he can take here with the knight. If he takes with the pawn, he's got his pawn roller, but he's still got this knight stuck on c7, which has now done its job. But he reckons that if he takes it with the knight, white is forced to take it off. And then he takes with the pawn, and he's managed to trade off that not so useful knight.
On the queen side, too. So there's just nothing on the queen side for white then, too. Like, you get rid of everything.
But pretty much, yeah. And now the pawns are moving, and now you can work towards getting the pass pawn. So he actually takes the b5 pawn with the knight. So, okay, Jack, if you want to take it with the knight.
Cool.
Right. Now, if you had to assess this position, how would you assess it? What sort of ideas would you say were going on?
For white?
For both sides. I mean, it's white's move, but...
Jack, go ahead.
Okay, so I can... Okay, this is where I start seeing, like, odd tactical lines that are probably bad. So, beginning with that. Me too. Knight to g3, check. Queen to d4, check. After he takes with the pawn. Which is a lot of fun, but probably bad.
Okay, the exact move order you've chosen is bad, but you're actually remarkably on the right track. There's a thing in chess we have. What we've been looking at now are fairly static elements. We've been looking at pawn structures. We've been looking at piece potential or piece placement and pawn rollers and things. But there's another aspect of positional play, which is this feeling you get when your pieces are getting active. And you're already starting to get a feel that your pieces have got opportunities, that they're getting active. Now, the funny thing is, it's completely asymmetric. You always feel when your pieces are getting active, but when you're playing white, you don't feel when black's getting active. It's a really weird quirk of chess, that it's very easy to get a real feel for your activity, but not your opponent's.
For their potential. So I feel like I have so much potential, but you don't realize your opponent also has a knife at your throat.
Yeah, it's some reason you just don't notice all the threats for black quite so much as you notice your own threats. So when you're sitting white here and you think, well, I've got this plan, I'm going to build up the king side, and not really notice that the game has suddenly turned. It's now getting really tactical. And this is where black really outplayed white. He thought black had already figured that knight had to be traded because black was getting too many chances. The knight now has the possibility of going into d4. The rook is now on an open line. There's a lot of things starting to appear, and you're absolutely right with the ideas of knight g3 and bringing the queen out.
Oh, that's cool too. Yeah, I didn't notice that before. By taking with the knight, you have a open or a half open? What is that called, by the way? Is the B rook on an open file for me or a half open file?
It's a half open file. If it's hitting something, it's half open.
Okay, cool.
Which rook? The C? The B?
Yeah, the B file. Yeah. Pardon me. Black's rook's on a half open file, and so is both rooks are in fact. So white, of course, underestimated black's activity. He played knight d1. Knight
d1. So I pull back with my knight.
Yeah, I'm just going to check that, though, in case we make a wrong move and have to restart the entire game.
Nope.
No, he played knight d. Good.
Have you been doing this all from your memory or something?
No, he's got
I
a paper,
presume
man.
you had it out in front of you.
Oh,
Okay.
I've got my piece of paper.
You remember the
I have to
18th century,
check that.
18th century technology,
Yeah.
man? Remember?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's written in my 20th century handwriting. Which is
They don't mesh, man. Don't mesh. All right.
Yeah.
So knight D1, yes?
knight on C3 to D1. Yeah.
All right, D1. I thought this is just in the trap, the steel mesh of your mind, and you were like, yes.
All right.
this
So
is it.
can you explain why that was the move for white?
Yeah.
Okay.
What the idea
So
was?
White is basically, he's planning a kingside attack and he wants to keep the pieces on. It's as simple as that. He wants to play the pawn to F4. He wants to play the pawn to G4, and he wants to roll black on the kingside.
Okay.
He's ended up getting he's had this plan for a little while, and he's ended up getting a little bit of a tunnel vision over it.
Yeah.
What he does, I'd say he's underestimating black's activity, big style. If black plays knight D4 now, he'll lose the A pawn, which is a bit inconvenient because that's the pawn majority gone. So before he moves the knight, black actually plays A5. So if you play the pawn up to A5, Jack.
Okay. Pawn to A5.
Yeah.
And the queens attack and cover it. Ugh, nerd chills.
that is entirely temporary. White gets his knight on D1 to F2.
F2. So I'm just trying to reposition. I want to keep my knight in the fight. I need that extra soldier, so I pull him back and redistribute him to a different front.
Exactly, yeah. You often get these two-move knight maneuvers just to get the knights to the best squares before doing something. Okay, so now we've got... So can we figure out what black's next move is? There are a lot of choices.
Yes, there are. This is cool.
I'm gonna think too. Well, you remember you got the fianchetto bishop, which is nice, who can strike. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to, but like you just have a nice diagonal open right there. So much control on queen side, even though it comes from the king side.
Is it potentially bishop to E5?
Okay, so let's have that as a candidate move.
Okay, cool.
But we'll accumulate a few candidate moves. So bishop E5 is certainly a candidate move.
Cool. I think it's still too early for knight to G3.
Yeah, you just lose a knight.
Right.
Yeah,
I can't see
my pawn
anything
takes.
Because I can't finish it, right? I can't make the checkmate. I can make a check happen, but not the checkmate.
Well, the trouble is when the pawn takes, it's on G3. So if you play Queen H4,
Oh, right.
Oh yeah, you're right. I defend it inadvertently.
Oh, right,
sad,
right.
sad, but
Very sad.
it is unfortunate. It is a cruel game.
What a cruel
So
game
knight G3. We'll rule out knight G3, but we've got bishop E5. Do we have any others?
I mean, I guess.
Why did? Can you
repositioning-
explain again? Actually, why was the pawn move to A5?
Oh, simply so that when the black knight moved, it wouldn't just be lost to white's bishop on E2. You play bishop E2 takes A6. So it was as simple as that.
Actually, I'm not following. I'm missing this.
Yeah, I'm not.
I feel like
following
my knight is. Oh, I guess it's protected by the rook right now.
Oh yeah, your knight is defended.
that. Yeah.
But what? I just still don't understand the A5.
Okay, so
on A5 earlier.
yeah, so the pawn was an A6.
Right.
If the knight had moved, you would have lost that pawn.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh yeah. The bishop on E2 would have taken it. Gotcha.
Yep, it would have lost.
Okay, I see it now. Okay.
The only thing I can think of isn't as much of an attack, but if you reposition your knight, you have a rook and the bishop can attack onto queen side. But I don't know where you'd reposition your B5 knight to.
What about? This is a little. Oh, wait. What about queen to H4?
Well, that's definitely a candidate move.
Right, because if you were to threaten me, I would put you in check with my knight, and you wouldn't be able to take it because you would be pinned.
Oh, you're right. Mwah. Brilliant, Jack.
So I would get a pawn at least.
By the way, you still have 2 hours left, and I have 2 hours and 4 minutes in this method. We've been playing pretty fast here.
Well, it helps when you have Marcus telling you what to do.
It's brilliant, man.
It's kind of had it written down as well, which kind of helps. Okay, so we've got bishop E5, we've got queen H4.
Okay.
We've very much shifted our attention to the king side, obviously. Any other moves? You mentioned the b5 knight.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of moving it so you have your rook's open, the open file.
Is getting it to d4 a good move?
But then it blocks your bishop.
Well, let's have that to a candidate.
Okay.
So now we've got. So here's the thing: when the position gets complicated, rather than trying to work out each variation, obsessing about a variation, and then finding you've left yourself very little time to shoot.
Oh, like we do every game that we've played so far. Aha!
You've just like described me perfect. I think we're soulmates, Marcus.
So
it's crazy.
There was a classic book called Think Like a Grandmaster by a guy called. His last name was Kotov. I think his first name was Alexander. I think it was Alexander Kotov. It's an absolutely classic book. I'm not sure it's still published.
I'm writing it down.
I'm sure you can get a copy. And it literally tells you how to calculate in certain positions and how to think like a computer. But this book was written before computers really took over.
Okay.
The trouble with
they haven't taken over. They've told us not to say that. Come on, man.
They've the only problem with it will actually ruin your chess because he kind of teaches you how to play like a computer, but actually it's not efficient. So what you tend to do is you tend to play a little bit like a computer. But, I'll come back to that later. For right now, let's follow his method. His method is we choose some candidate moves and we calculate them one after the other. And when we've calculated one candidate move, we don't go back to it. Okay. So we're fairly efficient in our calculation. So we had bishop e5, we have queen h4, and we have knight d4.
Mm-hmm.
So after bishop e5, what would white most like to play? And we're just going to look at his outrageously best move. We don't have to look at all his moves. But if we imagine the bishop in e5, what will be white's most strident move?
Knight to g4.
G4, yeah.
Or pawn. But no.
Yeah, knight g4.
Okay.
Knight g4 is good, or the pawn up. Either of those. Yeah. Now, are we happy with either of those two possibilities? Do we think we're getting anywhere?
As black, yes?
As black, yeah. We're very much thinking of black's viewpoint at the moment. So we've got bishop e5 followed by f4, or bishop e5 followed by knight g4. And just gut feel. Happy?
I'm not happy.
You're not happy?
As far as gut feel goes.
With either or both?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the pawn moving up. I don't like you getting a pawn on f4, opening up attack on my knight, threatening one of my pieces.
It would block my queen and my bishop, though. Only for that turn, but.
Well, I'll tell you what. White's plan is to play f4 and f5 anyway.
Yeah. So we're kind of playing into White's plan, like
a little bit, yeah.
Letting them get a move. They're already going to move anyway.
I think leave the bishop there. It's a lovely latent piece right now. We can leave it there.
So we wouldn't want to do that because it's playing into my plan anyways.
Yeah, and also after either knight g4 or f4, we're kind of going backwards a little bit. We're just, we're either retreating the bishop again, or after knight g4, we're allowing white to swap off our lovely bishop. So we, just by going by differences, are we improving our position? We're probably not.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we'll dismiss that. So we'll go to our next candidate. Oh, the next candidate's fun. The next candidate is queen h4.
Mm-hmm.
What would white likely play after queen h4? And that's a tricky one.
So we already said that g3 wouldn't work, right? Because knight takes g3.
Absolutely, yes.
Right?
Yeah, g3 doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
On pin.
Your march on to 1500 Evo rating is
H3.
What about g4?
H3 to block, potentially? To block the queen from advancing?
Yep, h3 is possible. There's also knight
g4,
h3.
maybe?
And there's g4 is definitely possible. The knight check on g3 will pick up the rook on f1.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So I feel
that's
like
right. That's right. I didn't even see that was a fork. I was just looking for checkmate.
yeah, I think knight h3 is definitely valid. It blocks, and you can take the I can take black's knight if he goes to g3 and tries to fork.
Okay, I how do you feel about queen h4, knight h3? Just on gut feel.
It doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I will always not feel good about most things.
That is possible. Okay, so we'll park. We definitely. Do you prefer it to bishop e5?
Yeah.
Okay, so queen h4 is our front runner right now.
Cool. I like this.
Okay, so finally we go back to our third candidate, which we haven't forgotten, which is knight d4.
Right.
This is probably the most complicated of the three, actually, because it's only slightly improves the position. So I would say, what is white's response to knight d4? I'm actually going to say, what the hell is white's response to knight d4? Because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'd attack with the bishop first, because we wouldn't want to lose the queen, and then you can take with the pawn or your bishop. That'd be a rough one.
What do you mean wouldn't want to lose the queen? If my knight goes to d4, how is your queen being threatened?
d4. No, I'm saying the things that can attack d4, I obviously wouldn't use the queen, because that wouldn't attack first. It would be my dark bishop attacks d4 first if I chose to attack it.
I would imagine. I think though, for like the efficiency of thinking, that if it's an obvious move, then just don't think about it. Don't consider it. Right?
Yeah.
If it's like, this would be a really bad move. Let's not waste time considering what all the really bad moves would be, because there's so many of them.
Absolutely. If you're already at the limit of probably what you can see comfortably, so probably you just want to look at the best cases.
Yeah, I feel like I might not attack it, because I'm trying to think of what you would attack from d4. You could attack f3.
Well, I mean, if you take with a bishop and take back, you get up a pawn, because you take with the queen. You have more pressure on that square than I do. Oh no,
you have the bishop.
The bishop.
I can't.
I forgot about the bishop.
That's why I was just saying that I wouldn't take with the queen.
There's three on there.
Yeah, to my two.
To your two, right? So it's a great square for me.
Yeah, either I guess I could reposition a rook to like d1 to think about that later if I need to move my queen and still pressure that, but I don't think I'd attack it. I just don't think I can come out ahead if I attack, or I can't come out ahead if I attack it. So
could you just march the pawn up? Did you just go f4 after that?
I think f4 is the most likely move, or it might move the bishop, just to not give black the option of taking it off.
Oh,
so, for example, he might move the bishop to d3 or c4.
Okay.
Yeah, d3.
It's very hard to evaluate it. I think. Do we prefer knight d4 to queen h4?
I think so, based on gut feel.
Brilliant. Okay, the actual move played is actually knight d4.
Yay! Hooray for guts! So you want me to make that move now?
Yeah, you can absolutely make that move now.
Oh my gosh, Jack, you took 11 minutes. Oh.
My God. Marcus, take longer on his turn.
Respect for
I'm losing time. I only have an hour and 52 minutes left.
Right. I think most club kind of players would play queen h4, and they would actually be doing pretty well. Queen h4 is definitely better for black. Bishop e5 definitely isn't. Knight d4 is the most complicated, and it's psychologically the most powerful, because when you have a really good position, if you play the most direct move, the opponent is immediately forced to counter. They don't get any stress. They just say, "Oh, you're threatening something. I have to defend."
Yeah, it's kind of nice for me, I feel like, because I can just say I can react to that. I don't have to think about all the variable moves. But that also is for like a bad chess player, me, someone who doesn't know too much. I prefer to be under attack.
If I was white and someone played queen h4 against me, I probably wouldn't be happy, but I'd know what to do.
Yeah.
When someone plays knight d4 against me, I'm both unhappy. I'm going to be thinking about it a long time, so I'm going to be unhappy for a long time, and I'm going to have to look at a lot of moves.
Yeah.
So knight d4 really ups the pressure. And it's one of this game's a real gem. It's a really nice move. White actually does move the bishop straight away. He doesn't want to trade the bishop, and he wants to try and avoid some complications. He actually played the bishop to c4. So do you want to do that, Tim? The bishop on e2. That's...
Quick question with this, that would you do, even if you're playing black, even if you didn't know where this knight was going to go, would you do that just to throw your opponent off? Like how you're saying?
What I would do is I would look at queen h4. If I didn't find a win, I would play knight d4. Because queen h4 is very committal.
No. So bishop...
Sorry, go on.
I was just saying, so bishop d3?
Bishop e2. He played bishop e2 c4.
c4, gotcha.
Okay, that didn't register on my screen. Did you play? Did you move
I played it there. It just said you went offline, though.
Okay, right. So I'll
refresh the page.
Yeah. I'll see if I can rejoin.
Turns out there's this new feature that if you observe a game for too long, you get kicked. Kicked for inactivity. Why aren't you microing, man? You should be microing at this point in time.
Last Craft's back online.
Okay, right, I'm back. Oh yes, I've got it, and I'm still observing. That's lovely. That's.
It brought you right back.
Yeah, they brought me right back, and I'm still observing. Cool. I really like this. Okay. Right, so black's next move. Yeah, again, I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
Nice. This is a fun part.
What are your candidate moves?
I don't know, man. Jack's playing black right here. I can just sit back. Playing right now.
So I think that bishop to e5 still is an idea.
It's still there, yeah.
Yep.
Even though it's not quite an attack, I do feel like the noose is coming around my neck with both these knights so close and on me.
I think even at this point, I think you're starting to realize that black's pieces are pretty active. No matter how tunnel vision you've been before, at this point you're getting worried.
When the knight gets onto my side of the board, it gets scary.
Okay, so queen h4 is another candidate.
Right, right.
Again, possibly rook b4, maybe.
What about
rook b4?
Maybe.
Okay, yeah. Well, because that bishop currently is not defended by anything.
Yeah.
Is there another idea behind that move?
No, I'm just thinking aloud. F5 is possible. Pawn to F5. Fairly extreme. So, but you choose the candidates. You don't let me.
Okay, so I think. So I think the two moves from before that we haven't moved yet are still kind of candidate moves.
Okay.
So those two, queen to h4 and bishop to e5.
You can stick with those two.
Queen to h4 has a lot of potential because then your knight the D knight can move over and cover h2 or pull a pawn out, pull the g2 pawn from defending down there. You have a lot of firepower close to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're dead right.
What was the other one? E5?
We got bishop e5 and queen h4. Which one do you want to look at first?
All right, let's look at the queen again.
Okay, so queen h4. What does white do in response to queen h4? What are we most afraid of?
Probably knight to h3.
Okay, knight to h3 is definitely up there.
Or pawn to h3.
Yeah, pawn to h3. We can just win the rook. We can just go knight g3 check. So we're definitely good at that point. We can stop analyzing. There may be something better, but we can stop.
Oh, right. That pawn has to stay there. Okay, I understand.
So queen h4, if white plays h3, the pawn to h3, black can go knight g3 check.
Yeah.
And at the very least win the rook on f1.
Right.
Cool.
So we can say, okay, that's good. We don't have to analyze any further.
Right.
White can try, he can move the king, or he can play knight h3. I have no idea what's going on.
So I think like if he were to move the king though, then I would put him in check, and he would be forced to take me with his pawn.
Yep.
And then, I guess there are not as many quite just straight up tangible things happening, but not having a pawn in front of the king is like, I think that opens a lot of potential avenues of attack for me.
It's certainly close. You kind of get the sense that it's nearly winning.
Yeah.
So should let's assess that one as nearly winning.
Okay.
What about bishop e5? What are we most afraid? What's our worst response against bishop e5?
I guess.
I think f4.
Bishop f4 or f4. Yeah.
I think f4 or knight g4.
Yeah, I think both of those still look good to me.
Yeah.
So I think so. We're going to go with queen h4. Is that the consensus?
I think,
that would be.
I like it. I like it more. I certainly like it more.
I think. I think that knight on d4 has made a difference, isn't it?
It would be the almost winning one, right?
Yeah, this is an almost winning is not a bad candidate move to choose, and in fact, that was the move played. It was queen h4.
Very, very well done, Jack.
Now, white has a ridiculous number of moves. I actually ran it through a chess engine just to see how tricky, because I basically cannot figure out what's going on here, and I had to run a chess engine through it to figure it out. However, we're not really in a position to play variations, but we could look at them afterwards. White actually played king g1 here.
King g1. So that would keep me. That would keep me from being forked by the knight, right?
Exactly. You can now take the knight.
All right. King g1, you say?
Yep. So knight g3 now just loses the knight. Well, just loses the knight, but you lose a knight. That gives some pretty good chances. Right. The next move, if you get it, you are well onto your 1500, 1600 ELO rating.
Okay, all right. Time to focus in. Who's gonna get the move? Who knows the 1500 move?
Are we gonna? We should both say our own, and then he says whether or not it's
right. Let me don't say yours until you have yours, and I'll figure out mine. We'll see who's closest.
Oh gosh, I don't know, man. This is too much pressure.
Well, I'll let you have a stab at it, and I'll start piling the clues on, because it'd be a shame if you didn't get it.
All right, let's see.
For those viewers at home, there we haven't lost sound. They're really thinking.
Really thinking hard, man. Are there any viewers not at home? Any viewers not at home out there? Put something down in the comments. Tell us how you are.
I'm watching from a plane.
I've just got some vision of somebody driving in a car.
Try to write a comment.
Phone or something.
I am incorrect. No.
Okay, are we ready?
I'm not seeing any. I don't know. I'm having trouble.
Okay.
Some potential, but white defends it all.
I mean,
give me a second more.
I'm still looking at the. I don't know what's changed. The king has moved.
Well, the knight g3 now loses a knight.
Yeah, knight g3 ain't no good here. Or maybe it is, and he's just throwing us off. Oh wait. Oh. Give me a second.
Okay.
Is it
okay?
Knight would knight take f3? I'm thinking.
I think
Oh.
knight takes f3 because if the pawn takes,
Yeah.
then oh wait, I had this. It was in my brain. Now it's gone. Damn it.
No, yeah, I think you're right. Were we correct, Marcus?
No, but you're picking up the ideas. You're definitely getting the motifs now.
I think what I was thinking of, just so you can tell me maybe where I was going wrong, is the knight goes to f3, and then that pawn gets moved off of that, and then you can
I was thinking the same.
advance the other knight. And if you were to take that with the h pawn, right? H takes the knight.
Yeah.
Then I can take with the queen, and you're in check, and you don't have a whole heck of a lot of places to go.
What about?
You're absolutely right. And in fact, if the rook follows up with e5, it's nearly made. The rook runs up to e5 and threatens to go to h5. Then you've got a real attack there.
I had a slight variation on. Oh wait, never mind. I just realized I was dumb. I had a slight variation, but it wasn't good. No.
Okay. If I'm gonna put down,
anyway?
if I'm gonna put my foot down and pull a move out of my butt here, the move is I think bishop to e5. I think it's time for bishop to e5. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's it.
If you do that, then I can move pawn. I feel like I have so many pawns I can move forward. I can move the g pawn or the f pawn, and cut off your line to h2, which is where I'd be thinking that you're trying to.
If you move g3, I take with the knight. You take with a pawn. I take with the queen. You're in check, and you don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
In fact, yeah, it's king h1, queen h2 mates.
Yeah. I was thinking more of f3. I guess you could go. What about with the bishop? No, you have too much control.
I like bishop e5. I think that would you would win 95% of your games playing bishop e5. Let me give. Okay, are you ready for a clue?
Yeah, definitely ready for a clue.
Okay, yeah.
Let's do it.
Because they've all up to now they've all been good moves, possibly with the exception of knight g3. So, in that knight on d4 can, as you say, take the pawn on f3 with check. It's effectively can be thrown away at any time. You don't have to do it yet. But imagine, because you can take it off the board for free, because it can throw itself away with a check, imagine that knight is not there. What would be your move?
Imagine the knight on d4 is not there. That's weird.
Yeah,
by the way, I just saw. Oh wait, never mind. No, it's nothing. Okay, imagine the knight's not there. Okay.
Yeah.
You found Nirvana in that moment?
Just for one moment. It's gone now.
Okay, home slice is not there. All right.
You put your thumb over the board or something to.
I'm doing it. It's done.
I'm actually on the screen. I'm just pulling it off the board.
Oh, that's don't put it somewhere on by accident, Jack.
No, it's off the board. So if I let go, it'll just go back to where it was. It is literally off the screen right now in the corner.
It's playing with fire.
It's hanging out.
Yeah, no, I agree, Marcus. Playing with fire.
Oh, you could potentially move the bishop over there to d4.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe b4 with the rook.
Well, you can do that anyway.
Yeah, you can do that right now.
Oh, I suppose you could take the pawn.
Yeah. But
because the queen's not going to take it back.
On the queen. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I mean, you can go like E2.
Never mind. There's a trap where I take the pawn with the rook, right? Rook takes the b pawn, and then if you are foolish enough to kill that, then I put you in check and make a revealed attack with my bishop on your queen. Oh shit! That's so cool. I don't know if it's the right move, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, should I tell you what he actually played?
Yes, please.
Okay, the move was actually rook takes b2.
Oh wait, we got to find it. b2. All right, yeah. So what you're saying? I don't think I'd take back though. I think I'd just.
You definitely can't take back.
You can't.
Yeah, because I can.
You hang your queen. Oh, that's cool.
It's also cool because that bishop that's been sitting there the entire game finally gets to deliver the knockout blow. So White is obviously now struggling. He knows he's struggling. He actually played the queen on d2 takes a5.
Oh, okay.
Just take the pawn?
Just take the pawn on the edge. There's an old phrase in chess which is a dying man can eat anything. And so he basically
Dying
goes,
woman, please let's have some inclusivity.
No, it doesn't make any sense. Then it's exclusive the other way.
Yeah, no, I said it and I was like,
I think a dying person would be the politically correct way to say that. But I think we can look forward in our brains to ascertain the meaning of the non-literal phrase. Okay.
Well, they didn't say no person can gone before, where no person has gone before until the 24th century. They seem to have skipped it all the way through the 23rd. So we've got a little while.
Yeah, we got a while to go.
Right. So what is Black's next move? Now, the advantage of this, of course, we now have another piece. We have a rook engaged in the attack, and the white queen is now out of the
incredible
defense.
Man.
So there has got to be something good now. Kasparov has a rule, which is if you can get 3 pieces round a naked king, you're winning. He actually never bothers to calculate it out. As soon as he gets that situation, as far as he's concerned, it's 1. So if he's got 4 pieces and has to give one up to get a naked king, he'll do it.
And a naked king would be one with an opening or just nothing around them?
One where we can get a lot of checks or a lot of near checks.
And by the way,
that's the tricky bit.
And by the way, for everybody out there, like our material is the exact same right now. We both lost 3 pawns. I've lost a knight. He's lost a bishop. So this is all coming. This is all position. This isn't just Black earlier took some piece.
Yeah, this is the real crunch point of the game. So, do you have any? Given the extra massive hint that I've just given you, which is 3 pieces will win. What are your candidate moves?
Knight to G3.
That's definitely one. We should definitely look at that. What else?
I didn't consider that.
Potentially knight to F3.
Yep, that's definitely a candidate move. I think we probably add bishop E5 as well, simply because it immediately threatens mate.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the one that before I was thinking I could move F3 or bishop to F3.
By the way, I just want to note, like, it's pretty wild, like the D file, the 2 pawns on the D file are just like have been chilling there since like I don't know, move 3 or something.
And C5. C5's just been hanging out, right?
Yeah.
That was the first. That was your first move.
That was
right
my first move. It's literally been just chilling there the whole time for 26 moves. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Okay. So knight to G3 potentially. I mean, I don't think we can just run in like a maniac and send the rook in yet.
Yeah, I think you've got 3 pretty good candidates right now with knight G3, knight F3, and bishop E5.
Yeah.
Which do you want to look at first?
Let's look at the bishop to E5.
Okay, so what will Black play? Given you're immediately threatening mate, so there's not that many moves. We already dismissed G3 because Black would take it with the knight.
Yeah. I think
so.
The queen ends up on G3.
H3. Oh, you could go knight to G4.
Yeah, knight G4 is definitely a candidate.
Yeah.
Sorry, a move for white. That's probably.
Move for white.
Yeah, that's quite.
That seems pretty good. Yeah.
Good. Now the rook. As soon as the white knight moves, that rook on B2 is eyeing up G2 and H2. That 7th rank is starting to look quite nifty.
Yeah, if I don't know if
I'll give you an example line. So Black plays bishop to E5, White plays the knight to G4. Now, we could play knight takes f3, and if the pawn were to take, we would suddenly have lots and lots of pieces on h2. We'd have a bishop and a queen and a rook. Unfortunately, on knight takes f3, white can take with a rook.
Yeah. I really like g4 too, since it just straight up defends h2 anyways from the queen taking.
So if black plays bishop e5, you as white want to play
knight to g4 because it also defends h2 any of the pawn. If the queen tries to go there, I really like that. But I guess what you could do is then attack with the bishop. Wait, no, that wouldn't quite work. Bishop. No, never mind. Yeah, I like g4 though for knight g4.
Yeah,
as a response.
I can't calculate it right out right now, but I think black is still winning. But I think we can, but it's not clear. It's not 100% winning. So I'd evaluate that as, again, pretty nearly winning, mate, probably. It's well, we've only looked at one move so far, so it's still our front runner. So we also have knight f3 and knight g3. Which one of those do we want to look at?
Let's do knight g3 because I think that one's fun.
Okay, right. So white doesn't have to do anything if he doesn't mind using the rook. That's the only complication. However, I'm not sure he wants to lose a rook. So let's be forceful. Let's assume that white takes it. So you go knight g3, hg.
I think I'd go with.
So then I take back with the queen.
Okay.
And I'm threatening to put him in check with knight to f3.
What if we swap the order? What if we play the knight f3 first?
Then he takes me with the pawn, and I can't occupy that space. I could go back to g5 with the queen and make a check that way. No, I couldn't because the bishop's there.
Well, how about you go knight g3? White plays hg. You play knight f3. White plays g takes knight.
Oh, and then you can take with the queen. Oh,
G3.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. As far as gut feelings go, that feels pretty good.
So that leaves white's king very close to being mated, but we have given up two pieces.
Right.
There's another there, but I think that's winning. That's got to be winning. And there's so many. We've still got the bishop on e5, and we've still got the rook on b2, and white's king is completely barren. So according to the Kasparov rule, that has got to be winning. The fly in the ointment to that is that when you play the first move, when you play knight g3, white can play bishop takes d4. And I think that kills it stone dead, which is such a shame.
So g3, I take the knight on d4.
Yeah, you actually don't take the first knight. You first swap the
yeah, I see.
So then we have knight to f3 as the first move.
So knight to f3 we could play knight f3 first. So on knight f3 check, well, it's forced. You've got to take it.
Yep.
What's our next move? And oh boy, do we have a lot of them. I'm guessing bishop e5.
Yeah, set up the attack on h2.
I'm not sure what white does about that, because he can't easily move the knight without letting the rook on h2 as well. Because we've systematically cleared away every path for that rook to h2.
Right. Or the queen, right? If those two pieces aren't there, then the queen goes there and it's checkmate.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, this is interesting, right? So if that knight and pawn move away from those two squares, I have checkmate.
Yep. It's getting, like bishop e5, it's ludicrously close to a win. I think we now have to pick one.
Light bishop e5? There's a pawn there. Wait, no. That's a dark square.
Well, white could play. There is one move we haven't looked at on bishop e5, which is knight h3.
Didn't
we should
you
get back to it? But
Yeah, but that was written off in a different scenario. Now it's back because there
But the
isn't
rook,
that. The king is
you have
moved.
a rook on b2, which is going to be nice with that. Because if I go to h3, then you only have the one pawn on top of the king. Or in front of the king on g2. Your rook can slide over if you can get in a nice position with your queen. Something to support.
the advantage of knight h3 is that against bishop e5 is it covers f3 with the rook. Actually, I think we did look at that one. I think we did examine it. We'll have to replay the video later to figure this out. But I think bishop e5 we were thinking knight h3.
Yeah.
As well as g4.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. You've got bishop e5, you've got knight g3, and you've got knight f3. Which one do you want to go for?
Bishop g5, knight. For white, right?
For black.
No, for black.
Or no, but black. Yeah, sorry. Pardon me.
I think. Oh, this is crazy. All right, this is intense. All right, knight f3 is what I think. That is.
Knight f3?
That's what I think.
Yeah? You happy with that, Tim?
Knight f3.
Okay. Right, so black's move was actually knight f3 check.
Oh, we got it. Yeah.
So
We
far,
took a lot of
Jack,
hints, but
you've
we
been
got
making
there. All right, so you want me to do that now?
Yep, do that now, definitely. Knight takes f3 check.
Cool.
White has to recapture.
Pawn takes knight.
Yep. It's unless he wants to get mated, that's utterly forced. Black's next move you can probably figure out.
You have a lot of faith in us.
Well, we did look at it in the variation as well.
No, yeah, you're right.
Is it the bishop to e5 and you threaten the checkmate now?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to guess White's next move?
I guess knight g4. But what else do we have?
We have f4.
F4.
Does that not work?
Oh yeah, that was
Does
the
that
one I was
not
thinking
work?
about the entire time.
Oh wait, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. I would win that. I would win that fight.
Yeah, you win. And I can't get my king out in any way. So what else? Can I get a check? No.
Since we're mainly looking at it from Black's point of view, I can just tell you White's move if you like.
Sure. Yeah, I would think knight g4. Or pardon me. Yeah, knight g4.
Oh yeah, I think knight g4 is the thing that's my gut feel move. If I don't think through all the variations, that's my gut move.
I'd go with it too. White actually resigned.
Oh! Yeah,
The other move.
The right thing.
The other
Yeah,
move.
wow.
Resign. Literally, you lose.
He's just like, no, I'm good. Yeah.
Knight g4 is. I didn't write down the ones for last. I didn't write down the analysis for the last move. But knight g4, I think bishop takes h2 would win. You can actually play this. We can actually play this out now because the game has finished. So we can just.
Oh wait, no, you can't. You can't do that move because I put you in checkmate.
Well, the knight covers it, but you'd have to take with the bishop.
Oh. Right.
And then
White
take with
White
knight.
has to go king h1.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I see. King h1.
Yeah, and I think I
Let me think through that, just so I understand. I trust you. I just want to understand it myself. King to h1. Take. Yeah, I see. If I don't go there.
Okay, so yeah, it doesn't matter if you take with the knight, then queen g3 check. Black can now just throw the bishop away, just put it on g1. He just needs to get rid of it. White has to retake with the king,
Yeah.
because otherwise queen g3, and then queen g3 anyway.
Also, you just made it anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever happens, queen g3.
Yeah, and that's not checkmate.
Not yet. You have to.
Still
Then
go
you
H1.
go to h1 because you have to.
Yeah, I
right?
was like,
and then I
like-
checkmate
Yeah,
here.
g2, yeah.
GG.
Oh, I just got 162
played ranked,
elo.
man.
Oh shit!
Oh, finally. Took me out right there. The sucker punch to the face.
Man, it's so much easier to beat you when we have a scripted game where I win. Ugh,
Yeah. I guess that was
cool.
That was really cool. I had a thought about it, and I completely forgot it. However, that was very cool, Marcus.
Right. So the reason for showing this game is to give us a sort of mental backbone, something to compare with. So way back when we had the position at move 9, we had set up that was essentially, Can you review the game?
Oh yeah, we can go back.
Do you want to review it or just go back? Because we can have one way where chess.com analyzes,
yeah.
In
So
one way.
what
where we just
position?
Go back.
Which one?
9.
Here?
Marcus, you have to go back to. Do you mean EXD5 or CXD5, right? 9 CXD5?
Well, I'm thinking. So, let's. I don't know. Let's just summarize it. So we reached a position way back at move 9, which was our starting position. If you remember way back where we thinking, where do we bring the knights out and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you can move back, by the way, within it. Like, you can seat yourself.
Yeah, you can move back and forth.
If you just click.
In which case, let's go all the way back to move 9.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think
CXD5?
Yep.
you're going to hear
Pardon
my
me, CD5.
Yeah. I'm going to have to put it click straight on the square, 9 and 1. Right. So hopefully we're all looking at the same thing.
Yep.
And what we had was that black had very slowly managed to get his pawns up the board, and white hadn't quite managed to get his attack going. And what eventually happened was white's queen side collapsed, and black switched to the center and started now playing all over the board as white scurried away off to the king side.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly it kind of hit a fork in the road where the piece activity suddenly became dominant. Now, that didn't have to happen. It was slightly a white mistake that caused that to happen. But the kind of same story would have played out. White would have probably lost a pawn on the queen side, and then black would have got a passed pawn, and it would have been a slower win. And it was all basically back down to white just didn't quite play quickly enough. But the
With
position,
the attack?
Yeah. So he played moves like king h1 fairly early on, and I can't remember what the other move was. I think it was the bishop back to e2 or something, and he just wasted a couple of moves, and that was all it took. And he really underestimated black's moves. But essentially up to that point, the position was equal, and it was still equal probably right up to move 15, move 20 or so. So this is kind of our starting position. This is the one which we're gonna judge against. Okay. So in this position, the plan with knight a6 and knight c7 and b5 is either equal or better for us as black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And white's plan of bishop f4 and knight c4 and so on it's roughly equal. So what we're now going to do is we're going to start another game, and we're going to get to a similar but not quite the same position.
Thank you for volunteering your time, Marcus. Coming on the show.
No, that's all right. It's great fun, actually. I've never a long time since I've done any chess coaching. So
it's fun.
Dude, this is awesome. I'm learning so much. This is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Seriously, appreciated.
We both got to platinum without coaching. Yeah. No, we got to like gold without coaching.
Dude, I am bad. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I'm talking chess.
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about chess too. I don't know if I'd be a gold level chess player.
I'm around like.
But one thing's for sure: the master level is very different in chess. I don't know how long it takes in StarCraft, but you could play your whole life as chess and not get to master.
Yeah,
it's
StarCraft is the same, but I'd agree that
I think like Grandmaster is the equivalent, right? You can play your whole life and never get GM in StarCraft, I think.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people that haven't got masters though and played their whole life.
Yeah.
Like, I agree though. Yeah, GM is.
To be fair though, like I feel like so many people just ladder grind and they're like, "Oh man, I'm not getting Grandmaster." It's like, well, maybe you should take a step back and do some quality practice and.
And Marcus, do you mean intermediate? Is there masters? Because isn't it like intermediate masters then?
Well,
FCC,
so each country has its own systems. The ELO doesn't really kick in till about the 2000 ELO mark.
Gotcha.
So, and they have a FIDE master. Well, they have a FIDE expert.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and then they have a FIDE master, and then they have a master, and then they have a grandmaster.
Okay, I think I did this right. Accept the challenge.
Challenge me. I am white.
Yes, you are, Tim. You're very white.
Oh, yes, brilliant.
I was just narrating the thing I was getting.
The observer interface on this is so good. You don't lose track at all. It's great.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Okay, so we're going to do a similar but not quite the same opening. We're going to open D4.
Okay.
D4. Boom!
Black's going to play the Benoni. He's going to play C5.
Benoni. Get Benoni, son.
White plays D5. Oh, sorry?
Wait. Oh, I was just going to say for when you were talking earlier about Jack liking the Sicilian, you're saying this is a method, right, versus a queen opener instead of a king opener, right?
Yeah, so this is a similar style of play and carries a lot of the motifs, like fianchetto bishops, pressure on D4, queenside attack. A lot of the, especially the tactical stuff will carry over. So,
Gotcha.
So Jack was very quick to find knight D4, for example.
Yeah. All right.
And that's that. There's I'll come back to an opening repertoire right at the end, which is how this fits in with that. But anyway, white plays D5.
D5.
Black plays D6. White plays C4. Black plays knight F6. White plays knight C3. Black plays G6. White plays E4. So far, so good. Black plays bishop G7. And now white plays F4.
Pawn F4, right? Sorry.
Pawn F4.
Yep.
Pawn F4.
Yeah.
When I see a weird move, I'm just making sure I didn't hear it wrong or something through Skype.
Yep, that would be unfortunate. Okay, so this is the other Tabiya of this, or the other key variation of this whole system. I'll get to the main position first, so we'll carry on playing. So black castles. White plays knight F3. Black plays E6. White plays bishop E2. Black trades the pawns, ED. White plays CD. And now we hit the next critical position. This is another one that can arrive through a huge variety of openings, most notably the King's Indian. So, given what we know about the position without the pawn on F4, what are the differences in this position?
So without a pawn on F.
So with our previous Tabiya, we had the pawn on F2 and white had castled.
Yeah.
And white had the plan of knight C4, white runs his knight round to C4 and bishop F4. But now white's got a pawn on F4 instead.
So immediately I'm worried about E5.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That feels terrible.
Yeah, we would get well and truly stomped. If E5 comes in, we're in trouble. Anything else?
Same development problem for my queenside knight.
Yep.
And still thinking knight B5 if I wanted to get rid of D6.
It's actually more relevant here. But yes.
Why is it more relevant here than the other one?
Well, because that's almost the only way of attacking D6.
Oh, right, because okay, cool.
Because the bishop can't
can't
right?
go out there
Yeah.
at the moment.
Gotcha.
So you would have to gang up on it with knights. Now the problem is, of course, that black is hitting E4, so it's not so easy to move the knight. Okay, so given that assessment, which is entirely 100% correct, what would you play as black? What's your next few moves as black? And again, it's the black rook and the black knight that you've got to figure out.
So Jack will be trying to defend a possible e5 then?
Seriously, yeah. I mean, white is he threatening it right now? Yes, white is threatening it right now.
Well, I think e8 is still nice. No?
Yep.
Right, because we have the trading, and then I end up actually pinning the king if he doesn't castle before all that goes down, which is kind of cool.
It's actually, there's a lovely trick here, which is if he does go to e5 and you trade the pawn, so he's left with a pawn on d5 and e5.
Yeah.
And you've got your rook on e8. You can go knight g4. And in doing so, you're actually hitting that center pawn 3 times.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's cool.
Okay, cool.
And that means you're guaranteed to win it. White can defend it with bishop f4, but he's still going to lose it. So after rook e8, if white plays e5, he will lose a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
Any other possibilities?
b7, knight to d7, excuse me.
Knight to d7 is, that's clearly a candidate because it tries to stop e5 directly. There's one other which is not obvious, which is bishop g4. And the idea of that is that when he plays e5, you immediately trade the knight off and then capture it. So in that way,
okay. So bishop is on c4.
So you move your dark square bishop to g4,
right?
And when white plays e5, you can take away the defender. You can take away the knight on f3. So that's another way of holding up e5.
Yeah.
But then you would take my. Oh no, I've moved my knight.
No, I'd want to take back. I'd want to take back your bishop probably. Right.
But I lose my knight if I do that. No.
It gets complicated. So I think after the trade. Yeah, I think I think what happens is you trade and you play knight d7 and take it next move. I actually can't remember the exact sequence now, but basically that extra pressure on f3 is another way of stopping e5.
Okay.
And bishop g4 is possible, rook e8 is possible, knight d7 is possible. As you've correctly figured out, the plan with knight a6 and c7 is way too slow. And that, in comparison with the previous position.
Right. So yeah, because he's going to do this next turn. I have to do this now. I don't have a free turn to reposition.
The good news is that knight d7 is possible because d6 won't get attacked. So the fact that when you play knight d7, you're blocking the defense of the queen to d6. But
right.
That, in this position, that doesn't matter. Now, the usual move, so the rook, if you play rook e8, what would happen is white would actually play e5 as a pawn sacrifice. And you get, in every chess opening, if you want to learn a chess opening, you usually got 2 or 3 tabiyas that you kind of have to know. Although really one tabiya and the others you can work out by differences. And then you've usually got one line somewhere in there where white absolutely goes and tries to kill you. And the line here with rook e8, e5 is that line.
Okay.
So this one, it would, unlike the previous game, which had very positional motifs, maneuvering plans and so on, this one will have a collection of motifs that is purely around tactics. There's not, I don't need to go through that. That's just, that's just a description of what would happen. Bishop g4, which you can actually play bishop g4.
You want me to do that now?
Yeah, let's do that now. It doesn't matter. We can just pick one of the variations and follow it. I can actually follow either. Because white can't play e5, you normally just castle. So if white castles...
You want me to castle?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Tim. Yeah, do castle. Black plays rook e8. White plays h3, just kick the bishop.
I like that.
Yeah, the bishop has to trade itself for the knight, or e5 kills black straight away. So black plays bishop takes f3. White recaptures with his bishop. And we're now black. Now we've reached the kind of new critical position in the quieter of the two lines. So yet again, we can now we can from our original Tabiya, we can look at this and go, well, okay, what's black's plan? And I'm going to throw that to you. This wasn't quite the position where I was going to choose, but this will do. So what would you play as black here?
Our overall idea or the exact play? The exact move?
You choose. But yeah, the overall play is probably the main thing.
I think it's the same for you, Tom, right? You're going to try to make an attack on queen side if it's the same as the last key position. At least similar to.
Yeah, I'm looking.
And in the last one, or at least after the last, in the last game after our initial key position, you also traded out your light square bishop. So this is a similar setup with what units you have.
Yeah.
Units.
So there's a weird thing that I'm thinking about. Knight to e4, bishop takes, and then I kill the knight with my dark square bishop, and now there's no protection for that piece.
And you win a pawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Unfortunately, after knight takes pawn, white can recapture with a knight.
Oh, crap.
So it's sad trombones noise at that point.
That'd have been me in the blitz games, though, Jack. You'd have had me.
But positionally, just positionally, what would we do here? And the clue is that it's incredibly similar to the last one. So the kind of choices are pretty much the same.
Is it a6?
A6 is absolutely one of the most popular moves. Yeah, the moves are, again, knight a6, to play knight a6, c7. And the other one is to put one or two of the knights on d7, just to make sure that e5 can't move for a while. And the other one is a6. A6 is by far the most popular. Do you want to play a6?
All right. Knight to a6, right?
A6. Just play a. Which do you want, knight a6 or a6?
Oh, so when I originally said it, I was thinking pawn, but then you said something about the knight, so I thought that was the correct move.
No, sorry, no. Play a6. Play pawn a6.
Okay.
Yeah. Pawn a6 to then eventually you also push on b, right? So then you get your pawn b5.
Yeah, I think that's the point.
Right?
Yeah, we're going to aim for the pawn roller again. Knight a6 is actually playable in this position. You need to know some details. White will play a4. Because he must stop that b5 move. Must. Now, there are so many plans in this position, it's ridiculous. Black can almost choose one. If you pick one, and I'll tell you what the others are. But again, you're trying to advance the queen side. Ideally the b pawn, but the queen side in general. And you want to stop e5. So it's really about coming up with a kind of piece formation, if you like.
By the way, in the name of what this is, in chess.com, if you guys don't know, for anyone listening, you have a little explorer thing, which kind of says what the opening is. And there's a huge long name for all of this. It's Benoni Defense Modern Pawn Storm. That's a good name. Jack, what are you doing? You're pawn storming, man.
Dude, I'm gonna porn storm the shit out of you, man.
Dang, man.
It's tough, man. Hey, man, New Englanders, we have issues with our R's, so don't mess with the R's, or we'll run into some trouble.
The pawn storm, man. I love that name.
Pawn storm is a general term for throwing a load of pawns at the enemy king.
Okay,
gotcha.
So I like b5.
You can't quite play it yet because you just lose the pawn.
Yeah,
but don't I get the? I
take back and then I take back.
I was thinking about the other way. Like I get his rook, and it's the other way. He would get my rook.
Nah.
No, you
do the math, bro.
Okay.
You don't necessarily need an exact move here. I'll tell you what the most popular move is, and it's a little bit surprising at first, but as soon as I show it to you, you'll know why.
Queen to d7?
No, that's a surprising move, but no, that would jam your knight in on the queen side.
Let me think about this too.
D8 is actually a really good square for the queen for most of the game, and D1 for white's queen. The queen is the one piece that starts off in a good square.
Ooh, good to know. I don't know.
Okay, well, there's a variety of plans. I mean, knight D7, any of the knights to D7. So you can actually, well, you can't really play the other one back to F7, but knight to D7 is possible. B6 is possible. You can kind of guess why you want to play B6 is to stop A5. The most popular move here is actually Queen A5, which looks a little. It looks a little bit odd, but you might be able to guess the reason for it.
Well, I mean, it stops the pawn from advancing, and it gives you...
That's exactly it. You're absolutely right. It's entirely to stop the pawn going to A5.
And then potentially you could do, if I tried, then you could potentially do B5, and if I take, you take my rook, and my bishop's in the way on C.
Exactly, yeah. There's an immediate threat to play B5. So, Jack, you play Queen A5.
This is cool. I like this one.
By the way, is this a game we're following, or is this just?
It's not one I bothered to write down, but I actually used to play this variation as white, and happen to know. I can, believe it or not, after 25 years, I can still remember some of this stuff.
That's good. That's good.
So white would normally play bishop e3 here because he doesn't want to allow b5, and bishop e3 unhangs the rook.
Gotcha.
Right.
Bishop e3.
Now the problem with bishop e3 is it's kind of causing a traffic jam. But white plays bishop e3 almost always. Being played.
So I'm going to make that move.
Yep, make that move.
E3.
Now white's plan is to play e5, and this is a bit of a traffic jam with Celebi. Black plays knight d7. You've got to get this knight out at some point. So that's b knight to d7. Jack.
B knight to d7. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to get the pieces out. And white will play bishop f2.
Bishop f2. Okay.
This is not. You don't have to play bishop f2, but in practice, that's usually what play. Yeah, the bishop's coming out to h4, maybe. White's going to basically put his rooks in the middle and go e5, almost no matter what. The bishop can come to g3 as well.
Bishop.
Eventually.
I was like, I don't have that move. I don't think,
yes.
I don't think I can do that.
White's plan is to play bishop g3, queen somewhere, rook e1, and push e5, and basically bulldoze black off the board. And before that happens, black has to play. Well, the next move actually is c4. Black probably doesn't have time for b5 right now, so he'll play the pawn on c5 to c4. So you want to do that, Jack?
Okay. Pawn is going to c4. Wow. All alone out there, little buddy.
And the reason is to bring the other knight to c5. So
cool.
I'll probably stop there because you can actually just look this up on ChessBase or whatever else, and there's hundreds of games. But basically, white is going to get e5 in. And so what black does is prepare for that situation. So if you imagine white has played e5 and the pawns have been traded, so there's a pawn on d5 and there's a pawn on e5. If black is having his pieces kicked backwards, he's in trouble. So what he'll do, he's just freeing up squares so that they can leap in around the pawns. Mm-hmm. And then you end up with a position where white has a space advantage. Now, there's a very particular way of exploiting a space advantage or thinking about space advantage, which is to let's imagine that all the pawns disappear. Right now, let's suppose all the pawns in the center disappear. You would say no particular person has an advantage. Everybody's pieces are still back at the third rank. But supposing white advances his pawns to d5 and e5, sends black scattered, he then moves his pieces into the void, and then the pawns disappear. Now when you sweep the pawns away, all white's pieces are in the center, all black's pieces are scattered around the edge, and white has the advantage. And this is how you exploit a space advantage. You drive the enemy back, you fill the void, and then you just detonate the position. And that's basically.
I think I dig it.
Well, I'm kind of making some of the words up, but it's basically you clear the pawns off. But you end up with the idea is white is going to use the space to centralize his pieces and then just blow the position open, and the tactics will follow. Something will blacks will drop off.
Yeah. Did you want to play that out? Or pardon me?
You can. I don't have anything particularly prepared. What I actually want to do is to go back to the earlier moves. Remember all this time we've been skipping over those early moves?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're now in a position, I hope we're in a position, where you can start to, you've got enough of an understanding of these types of positions now that even when I show you a slightly different one with a pawn on f4, you can at least understand the moves. You know, you immediately figured out what queen a5 was for, which was brilliant.
Hear that, Tim?
And this
brilliant.
No, he's been complimenting us all night, Jack. This guy's been awesome.
That's how you know he's a good coach, man.
So basically, if you want to learn an opening, find a Tabiya, learn the Tabiya, play a few games or whatever, and then the other key positions you can work from differences, because human brains are good with differences. They can add and subtract really easily from patterns. Mm-hmm. So I really should, if you ever want to play this opening, you're going to need to know the reason for the early moves. So unfortunately, we're going to have to reset the board again.
All right.
So if you want to agree a draw or something.
Yeah, we can draw. We can draw. I guess I get 85 points if we draw because you won last game, Jack. Offer a draw. There it is. Give me my points, bro.
Oh man, I just lost 85 points. Oh.
I would have got
precious points, man.
I'd have got 230 if I would have won. Wow.
All right. Cool. So, challenge is issued.
Wants a rematch. I don't know, Marcus. Should I play this control at the league guy? I don't know.
Yeah, dude. I made this when I was very young and drinking lots of Mountain Dew.
I actually I've been meaning to ask you about the Mountain Dew icon. If no one else can see, you can have icons on.
Oh, it's on the screen. It's on the screen.
Okay, yeah, his is Mountain Dew. You can see. I'm a pawn. I'm the lowest but the strongest piece in my own lovely right. You know, Kappa. All right. So should I go D4 again?
So we're going to go D4. We're going to go C5.
Okay.
Son of Sorrow. We're going to play D5.
D5.
We're going to play D6.
D6.
Yeah, we're going to play C4. We're going to play knight F6.
Okay.
We're going to play knight C3. Black's going to fianchetto the bishop. We're going to play G6.
Oh, I need to. Yep.
So there's a lot of steps in there. You need a little time.
Okay, white will play E4.
I just want to look at E4 for a second. So I understand everything up to here, and so I'm basically just I'm putting more defense on D5, and it's covered by my knight, my pawn to E4.
You're just developing and grabbing a ton of space. There are systems without playing E4. So, for example, you can fianchetto your bishop in return. There's a much quieter system if you do that.
Gotcha. So E4.
E4 it's a lifestyle choice.
All right, I'm cool. I'm cool with the lifestyle choice. I'm cool with it.
Okay. Black will play bishop G7.
Are you not cool with my lifestyle, Tom?
No, man. I just love the language coming out of Marcus, man.
I know.
It's so good.
It's great.
Right. White plays F4.
F4. You say you're making it up, but it just sounds perfect. Like oh crap! I screwed up.
That was the wrong one.
Bishop.
Oh no!
Right when I was talking.
Oh no! We'll have to reset
in theory, you
resign. You've made the mistake. You must resign.
You could move the bishop forward. I could move the bishop back. You could move your bishop back, and then I could go
brilliant.
forward.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Absolutely brilliant.
Move your bishop to H6.
Nope. I'm doing this.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Anything. Yeah.
Wow, Jack. Okay, then my bishop goes back to C. You pull back, and now I go F4. Right?
Yeah. Go to C1 with your bishop, and then go F4.
I think you just dropped again. If you refresh the page.
Oh, sorry. Right.
No, it's all right. I think it's just chess.com.
Let's just make sure we're in the right position. I think we are almost there. The knight needs to be on F3, and then I have one more move to make, but I don't remember what it is. Oh, it's the E6 move, I think.
Wait, knight on F3.
Yes. Now this is the thing. We're not going to play E6.
Okay.
We're going to castle.
Okay.
And white's going to play knight F3. And we're now going to assess the position.
Cool. Another variation.
So what's the difference?
The difference is we haven't traded out the pawns in the middle, so things are a bit more closed off. I see bishop to g4, not really looking ahead too far, but just pinning the knight down against the queen. Potentially as a thing that may eventually happen.
Yep.
Still have the knight development struggles.
Yeah. What about the pawns? What's white going to do? What's black going to do?
Is white still going to try to go for e5 here?
Yes.
Okay. So
we can look.
I was just gonna say, since so if I traded for e5 right now or something, I will have my c4 pawn always there ready to support, but I'm not sure how that actually plays into anything.
It doesn't just help d5, it also prevents black from playing b5.
Yeah, and so the queen attack almost won't happen since we didn't trade out earlier. Or pardon me, not the queen attack. The queenside pawn attack doesn't have as much potency.
Exactly, and it's also going to be a lot harder to get going. What about white's attack? Is that easier or harder?
I think it's easier.
I think it's easier as well. This is, if black doesn't play e6 here, he pretty much loses flat out. White will play e5 almost certainly, and it gets very, very unpleasant after that.
In which move was the move in the last two games where Jack took a piece and I took back? Was that? Which one was the
queen
when we
D7.
traded pawn?
It's turn 6. Turn 6 didn't happen.
Yeah.
So turn 6 instead of
turn 6 and 7 didn't happen.
Yeah. Your two moves are further ahead than you should be.
But which one would have been the taking of the pawn?
So you have to play e6 now as black.
Okay, when we do that.
Yeah, if you do that, we're back into the same game again. It's really, I just want you to assess, was to understand the e6 move. But yeah, you can play it again.
White has to go. It goes back. It goes back to where it was.
White plays bishop e2, and then you trade pawns.
Bishop
E2. And then you're back to the
E2. I see. Bishop E2.
And then black trades.
Okay. Now we trade. Gotcha. This is what I was trying to figure out. All right. So my C takes D.
C takes D. You can play E takes D, but it's really dull. So CD. And
dull meaning there's not as much action, not as much killing and blood.
No, not so it gets quite stodgy. And then you're back to the rook e8, bishop g4, fork in the road. You're back to this Tabiya basically. Just by doing differences, we can hopefully you can see why e6 is a necessary move. Because otherwise you can't stop black playing. You can't stop white rolling you off the board.
And you know, Jack, that you get back to this position. Like, you understand this position a little bit, even though it's a little farther down the road. Or we've been here before.
Yeah, we've been here before. We're going in circles.
Yeah, but basically, if you miss out e6, you're in trouble. It's kind of a necessary move. You can play e5, but that's a different game. Again, that's a different lifestyle choice, if you like.
I'm into some crazy lifestyles recently. I think I could dig it.
So we have one last variation which we haven't looked at, which is you're unfortunately going to have to reset the board again. And it was the very first question you asked.
Called draw. All right, I'm going to give it to him. So when it says Benoni defense, modern, pawn storm, when you're saying the different variation, that's the variation of just the Benoni defense or of the Benoni defense?
Yeah, so
modern?
The Benoni is the whole setup with meeting d4 with c5.
Gotcha.
And there's a whole load of variations. After c5, Now, you mentioned right at the beginning, why can't white just take this?
Right.
And the other variation is knight f3. If white was to go knight f3, I'll dispense with that one first. You'll end up in Sicilian positions, which is kind of handy. So let's find out. Let's take it. White can play DC here.
I think personally I wouldn't take it just because you're getting out of the middle with the pawn. Even, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. If you're not actually winning a pawn here, it's almost certainly not a good idea. Black will normally reply with e6. And that leaves the problem of now when black takes it, he's going to take with a developing move.
Cool. Okay.
Oh yeah, you'll move out and take it. So double. Wow.
So now you're left with some way of white tries to hang on to it. Well, you can choose really. I mean, you've got either b4, you've got bishop e3.
Well, we like our development moves, right?
So bishop to e3.
Okay, well, before you play bishop e3, I think queen a5 wins it straight away.
Oh yeah, I see. Queen a5, then you take, yeah.
Yeah, because if you drop bishop back to d2, we go to c7 with the queen and then take with the bishop. So
I guess b4?
If you want to hang on to the pawn, it's got to be b4.
Yeah. Is that a lifestyle choice whether or not I want to hang on to the pawn, Marcus?
No, you really don't. You probably don't want to. This is more like the hobo lifestyle. You really don't want to go down this road if you can avoid it.
All right,
So,
and try to get 2 tunnel vision on the one little pawn while he's just kind of forsaken.
But this is the Scrooge lifestyle choice. We'll go for b4.
Wow, you're forcing it on me, man. All right. Okay.
Yeah, let's have a look. Black plays a5. And pretty much whatever you do now, black will win the pawn back. White can play either c3 or a3 won't help because you'll just take the pawn, and you can't take back because the rook's hanging.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So white has to play c3, and then black will play b6. And at that point, the pressure becomes intolerable. I'm not sure whether black wins his pawn back, but he gets such a good position out of it that it really doesn't matter. We don't really. You can probably just analyze this on your. You guys can probably just analyze this on your own, really.
Yeah.
It's straightforward analysis. You just get to chess it out and play it out, and you'll find that black comes out ahead almost whatever happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice positions too. Like, yeah, if I try to take, queen can take, rook can take.
Yeah, all of black's pieces come out so fast, and you're going to drop either the c3 pawn or the something. And in fact, even if you were to take all of those pawns away, or leave maybe with a pawn on c3, black would get d5 in, he would get queen b6 in, he would have bishop on b7, he would have a large number of pieces out, and white's on a real traffic jam on the queen side.
Traffic jam, man.
So, is there any move you'd recommend against this? I can see how it wouldn't work to take with pawns.
We just don't.
So
you just don't take. I guess this is the lesson about.
You don't go for this one. You just avoid this. Yeah, basically when black plays c5, he's not sacrificing. He's not offering a pawn. You just can't really take. C5 is a perfectly good move.
Gotcha. This is called the old Benoni defense, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. This is not the modern. This is the old Benoni defense.
Okay, yeah, the modern is the only difference is you play knight f6 before you play c5.
Gotcha.
There is. White can slightly exploit it. Instead of playing c4, he can play e4. So it probably is best to play knight f6 first. But it's
after I go d4.
Yeah. So d4, c.
Gotcha.
D4, knight f6, c4, c5.
Gotcha.
But it's honestly, it doesn't matter. Most of the time, people won't play e4. Usually because they haven't bothered to learn it. Because everyone goes knight f6. So the final thing is, so assuming you've learned the Benoni, we've learned the Tabiya, and we've learned any lines where white can try and kill us, and we can figure out most of the other positions relative to the Tabiya. you then think, okay, what do I do against e4? Well, if you've chosen the Sicilian dragon and the Sicilian fianchettos, you've already got a lot of commonality. You'll have a lot of the tactical ideas will follow over. So you go to the Sicilian dragon. There's a couple of tabiyas there, basically the one where white castles queenside and the one where white castles kingside. So you play around with those two positions, and then everything else you can work out differences. So at that point, you have basically an opening repertoire. You have a sort of system as black based on one or two positions. You have against e4. You have a couple of tabiyas as e4. Maybe you have the odd little tactical line like this thing we're looking at now, where you're not losing a pawn. But that's basically how you build an opening repertoire. It's not memorizing hundreds and hundreds of variations. It's understanding certain key positions and working off those to understand others. That's basically it. And it's also a lot less effort than learning lots of variations.
Yep.
I feel like I should stand up and
I know.
round of applause. There it is, boy. It's the lecture. Good day.
Right, okay.
Good day.
Yep, you're all done. The class dismissed.
We win now.
Time to GG. No. Time to you know what? No. I resign. Time to no, I don't resign either. Too many words. Too many words.
Well, in our current board, man, I'm gonna win this one out.
Yeah, I don't know.
At least get a pawn.
I feel like I'm gonna be off for a draw somewhere in here. Hey, I was forced into this. I had my hands tied. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's all right.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
No, the pleasure's mine. That's for sure. It's a long time since I've done any chess coaching, and it's really. I thought I'd forgotten everything, and I found, sadly, I remember a ridiculous amount. I'm sure I could put my brain to far better use than memorizing old chess variations. So, anyway, thanks very much. Anyway.
All right, so that wraps up this episode of Chess Time number 5, which maybe we'll call like Tim and Tom Get Schooled or something.
Yeah,
learned a lot. Really appreciate Marcus coming on anytime at all that you want to come and join us on a Chess Time, or especially we'll be looking out for potential comments from our sensei when we make major screw ups or things like that. But hopefully we'll have you on again sometime. And that's it. So thank you as always for tuning in. You can follow Tim at Drennock. You can follow me at Jack Attack TV. I don't think Marcus is in the cultivating a personality presence online.
I am, but it's on the programming side, and I haven't completely set up my channels and all sorts of things yet. So I'll wait a while.
All right, so stay tuned on that. We'll be letting you know. That wraps it up for today's episode. We'll see you next time on Chess Time.